Good evening and welcome to a jam-packed Footy Classified. Eddie Maguire's in Mexico. He doesn't do buy rounds. He's back next week. But one person who does do buy rounds is Twomey, who broke the biggest story of the year last week with the re-signing of Rankine. And he has two more exclusives for us tonight. One on the West Coast Eagles and one on Melbourne's coaching search. We'll get to Cal in a few moments' time. Rory Sloane has his opinion on the Adelaide Crows and the handling of the Isaac Rankine situation. And James Hird on exactly where the Western Bulldogs have gone wrong and whose fault is it. Let's not waste any more time. James Hird and Rory Sloane, welcome to you both. And Twomey, congratulations on your story last week. Big news out in the West tonight with the re-signing of Harley Reid. Yeah, and probably just as significant for West Coast as last week's signing was for St Kilda in Harley Reid re-signing for 2 more years through to the end of 2028. So this one has been bubbling away for many weeks now. Across the past 12 months, really, West Coast intentions to re-sign Harley Reid. As of 2 weeks ago, Harley very nearly signed a 5-year deal through to free agency. That would have taken him through to the end of his 8th year, but he had some time to think and consider. As of Friday, most recent Friday, he was just about locked into the Eagles, spent a couple more days over the weekend absolutely deliberating, and of course on Tuesday let his teammates know that he'd been for 2 more years beyond his next year, which he was already contracted to. So this is significant in that this is a deal that could see him net $2 million a season over those 2 seasons, with incentives built into that deal. Obviously, it would make him the highest paid player ever in the history of the West Coast Eagles. Hawthorn, as we know, Tom, I'll stand by it. They've been obsessed with the chase of Harley Reid over recent months. They were informed just before the re-signing was made official that their man, in this case, was going to stay at the Eagles.
Great sign for the West Coast Eagles that they're going in the right path, and Harley Reid supporting the Eagles and their plans going forward. What were the main criteria assessed, Cal, in staying? Is it just the money or is it the environment? What was he looking at? No,
I think the main criteria heard is that he's formed a really close bond with Andrew McQualter. This has been critical to his decision-making process over the past little bit. A trade this year would have been difficult as well. He's contracted, whether West Coast would have budged or not and whether it was the right time to go. I think everyone in the footy world likes to see a young player stay and give his club some time. And in giving them 5 years, that's a really good test period to see if they've made progress over that time.
He's a top player. You can build a squad around, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, look, it's really good for him that he stayed. I think it would have been seen as a bit of a slight on him if he'd come back to Melbourne to stay a few more years and see what he can do at West Coast. And he is a player he can build a team on, and they need as many leaders and good players as they can get. You were both very critical about 2 months ago on the prospect of West Coast paying big money, but not a long-term contract. Have you changed your opinion on that? No, I think big money is short-term contracts all right. I think big money over a long-term contract for a player that hasn't played a lot of footy is very risky. But still, it's a lot of money for a guy who, you can Wanganeen-Miller, a top 10 player in the AFL. You can understand that, but Rory, $2 million or $1.8 million for a player who, at the moment, would sit outside the top 100 is a lot of money.
There's probably a handful of guys I'll be giving $2 million to at the moment. But, I mean, Harley Reid, exactly right. You lower your risk on a shorter-term deal. I think he's got so much upside. But for me, it's about who they can put around him and how they can help him become and develop. Because he's still only in his 3rd year of footy coming into next season. So they need to put some players around him to manage him.
Absolutely.
Cal, we teased an exclusive off the top. The Eagles are trying to do something that no club has ever done before. Tell us more. That's right. So let's go through the detail here, because they're putting together their submission for an assistance package from the AFL after winning 11 of their past 91 games. It's been a hellish 5 years for them. So the league will make a decision in Brownlow week around what sort of package they could or potentially will hand the Eagles. There's 2 things we can reveal tonight around part of that submission. One of them is extra rookie list spots. They've got some opportunities to bring in some NGA prospects who might fit in as rookie listed players. So North Melbourne received that as part of their 2023 assistance package. The other more significant consideration that they'll discuss with the AFL is the exemption to bring in a free agent without diluting their free agency compensation pick that they're set to receive for Oscar Allen. So that is going to, we all think, be picked 2 in the national draft.
So that's uncharted territory.
Uncharted territory. Never happened before. Never been an exemption that's allowed this. Now, this is what I would call the Brandon Starcevic rule, because they are in the market for Brandon Starcevic. He's been weighing up Essendon, staying at Brisbane or going to West Coast. I think it's narrowed now to be out of staying at Brisbane or going to West Coast on a longer-term deal. The Eagles are keen on him, but bringing him in as a free agent under normal circumstances would dilute number 2 pick. They don't want to do that and they don't want to trade for him. So I think as part of this discussion
and submission, they're likely to throw up the ability to get a free agent, such as Brandon Starcevic, whilst keeping pick 2. It would be significant.
I find it remarkable, Tom, that they're actually contemplating giving West Coast Eagles priority picks. I mean, this is the wealthiest club in the AFL who have put themselves in this hole, really, and they've had all the money in the world to go out and get the assets they need, assistant coaches, different coaching techniques to build these players as quickly as possible. Understand they're at the lowest ebb at the moment. They've gone backwards since last year. But to give this club priority picks, who, as I said, is the wealthiest in the AFL, I just think is the wrong message to clubs that you can do whatever you want. If you get down the bottom and spend long enough, we're going to help you out, which I just don't agree with.
Isn't that the idea of priority picks? Like, all these priority picks have been given out of the journey are self-inflicted by clubs. So
but not every club has the ability to get itself out of it in its own means.
Why does soft cap money mean that they can automatically
extra coaches, extra development, fast tracking, technology?
But clearly they can't.
Well, no, they're not choosing to. They're paying the soft cap. Why not pay outside the soft cap, pay the luxury tax, and drive the club to get there quicker than perhaps before? I just think it's an easy out for a club to go, OK, we're not going that well, let's go and get some priority picks.
And we didn't do it when we were bottom.
Adelaide, I think Adelaide's a similar club, not as wealthy as the West Coast Eagles, but a wealthy, strong, biggest club in the state. You took your time and look where you are now. I think Adelaide's a perfect example.
But invested a lot of time into what you're saying, into development, but then trade was huge too. How do we get senior guys in? And this is what West Coast need to do. They need to get senior leaders into this footy club. But Starcevic is an absolute key. But to get people around Harley Reid as well, I'll be looking at Marcus Windhager or someone and throwing a lot at someone like him or Jack Steele, because if I go through their current leaders, you've got Oscar Allen, who's out, Liam Duggan, great leader, Jeremy McGovern, he's gone, Jack Graham, Waterman, Baker, they've only got a handful of leaders, and I think if you're going to develop these players up, these young kids around, you need to make sure you get the right senior players in around it.
So I don't like the priority pick either, Hurdy.
Yep.
But if there's ever a debate around a priority pick, surely West Coast is
11 from 91, and the AFL leaves the door ajar for their options. And this is why it's not a plain and simple priority pick at the end of the first round. That's been done before and it hasn't worked. So this is why the club goes to the AFL with different options and sees if they might be open to it.
I just think you're rewarding clubs putting themselves in that position. They won a premiership when?
2018.
2018. So 7 years ago they won a premiership.
So how long did they have to wait? How long did they have to be
not 7 years.
So 10 years.
Well, no, there's not a time
30.
limit. But it's just not right that 7 years ago you were the best team in the comp and now you're getting priority picks through. What I'm saying is your own fault.
Because you're going through a natural cycle that every other club goes through.
Yeah, it should be 18 years. After 18 years and you tip over, maybe 19 years you get it, but not 7.
OK, we'll wait for 18 more years then, or 11 more years. Cal, news out of Melbourne Football Club. They're searching for a new coach, and you can give us some names of some of the people they're looking for.
Yeah, and this one has been a process that has steadily taken shape in recent weeks, and it can reveal that 7 of these assistant coaches around the competition have been sounded out or spoken to by the Melbourne Football Club in Alan Richardson and Paul Guerra. Corey Enright, of course, from the St Kilda Footy Club, Daniel Jan, Syracuse at Essendon, James Kelly from Geelong, Brendan Lade at the Western Bulldogs, David Hale at Hawthorn, Hayden Skipworth, Collingwood, Stephen King at Geelong, and a few others as well, I believe, as part of that wider circle that they are trying to get to. Now, informal, sounding out catch-ups. By the end of this week, the assistant coaching ranks are expecting a shortlist to be developed and devised by Melbourne. Cameron Bruce, who can also say a former champion, of course, at the footy club. The Dees reached out to him. At this stage, he isn't interested in pursuing it. He's a Brisbane Lions assistant coach, looking more likely to stay and re-sign at the footy club there rather than pursue this Melbourne role. But clearly they're casting the net far and wide. The question, though, is, and the concern among these assistant coaches that I've spoken to is this going to be just the Nathan Buckley
Is it
job?
a boat race?
Exactly. And do you put your hand up for one of these roles if you think it's just going to go to Bucks?
I think if you're an assistant coach, I think it's worth going through the process to actually practice and trial. Listen to Adam Simpson talk about when he went through a number of roles getting to the West Coast role and how it helped him going through those other roles to get the West Coast role. But I do think that if people think it's a Nathan Buckley job, it's going to be given to Nathan without a due process, you'll see a lot of people pull out.
Paul Guerra, the incoming CEO, spoke on 3AW on the weekend about a change in game style, and he is at the very forefront of this decision.
Where our list is at the moment, we know with a new game style, we can maximise the outcome of that list. Whether we need to add to it, we'll wait and see, depending on the game plan that's there.
So, Rory, what are your thoughts on Paul Guerra talking about the changing game style and the significance of a non-football CEO discussing football without a senior coach in his place?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at it going just probably from more experience. When you have that much instability, new CEO, new president, new coach, new assistants, new development coach, there's so much instability. I don't expect that they'll be able to challenge for finals. It just hasn't happened before in this time. Like, you look at all this change that could possibly happen, Hurdy. I don't see how they can possibly challenge for finals with that much instability.
No, I tend to agree that I don't think the list is where the Melbourne board and maybe executives think it is. But I also think that one of the positive things about coming in as a coach with all those new roles is you're all starting that journey together. And there's something to be said by I agree, maybe not be leader performance in the next year or 2 years, but you sign up with a new president, a new CEO and a new coach altogether. You're starting that journey together. I think it's got a big tick for it as well.
It takes you a little while to gel, though.
Absolutely. No,
Luke Beveridge was probably the most recent one in 2015, made finals, just finished sixth. 2016 did win a flag, but I haven't seen too many other coaches come in with a new regime around them and go and challenge for finals.
Cal, you broke a story today on a Melbourne assistant going to West Coast as well.
Yeah, Sam Radford, who's been at the Melbourne Footy Club for 10 years, has gone over to join Andrew McQualter, who he worked with at the Melbourne Footy Club last year. He's their midfield coach at Melbourne. This year, gone over to be a part of that assistant coaching panel at the Eagles. Nathan Buckley also doing his own background work as well, I'm understanding, around whether he goes for the job, which I think he will.
Which is important for the new coach to come in and say, and there are two or three potentially assistant coaches spots around there. So you can actually bring in some of your own people, particularly if it's Bucks. I'd imagine he'd want to bring at least 2 of his own people in to support him in that role.
Tom, one of the biggest stories of the year as well has been the Isaac Rankine saga over the past week. What can you tell us?
So Isaac Rankine he hadn't spoken as a group to the men's cohort at Adelaide Football Club nor the AFLW group, but he did call the AFLW captain at the Crows, Ebony Marinoff, late last week to apologise for his homophobic slurs, and he also called Chelsea Randall, who also does work in the men's football department, to apologise as well. So we expect that these conversations will continue when he does get back from Italy. Jordan Dawson, I can also tell you, spoke to the AFLW group late this afternoon to reiterate how unacceptable Isaac Rankine's remarks were, and just to say that he's here to support anyone who feels like they need to talk at any time. But I think, Rory, the key will be when Isaac Rankine comes back, how does he get back into the club, earn the respect back of not just his teammates but the staff, and I think more importantly, the wider football public?
I think first and foremost, that's not fair on Dawes to have to shoulder that for him. I think Isaac missed a massive opportunity to take ownership here, and for me, when you make a mistake in life, in any aspect of life, taking ownership is the most pivotal path in moving forward. And there was just a massive opportunity missed for him to, I think, address the wider community, the AFLW team. I'm glad he spoke to Ebony and Charles, because he's got a great relationship with those two in particular, and the playing group as well. And I think if he had done that before he left, because I'm all for him leaving and going over there to train and get out of Australia, but if he had done that before he left, the transition and coming back in afterwards and the noise around everything, I think, would have disappeared.
So if you're captain of Adelaide and Isaac comes to you and says, I want to go overseas for a training camp, to get away from the fire that is Adelaide at the moment, what are you telling him in that moment? I'm
telling him exactly that. I'm saying, mate, all for it. But before you go, you need to take ownership of this and you need to address everyone. And you can do it in a really safe way too. Like the media team could have done an interview at the footy club, but you would have sat in front of the AFLW team and the men's team, and then maybe got something out to the broader community as well.
You're plugged into the Adelaide Crows and the players there. How do the players feel about some of the other incidents within the AFL, how they're handled by the AFL compared to the way this was handled with Isaac? Obviously, they condone what Isaac said, but the inconsistencies potentially in the way the AFL handled this compared to other things?
I think there's just probably some frustration from a lot of players. Like, there seems to be a lot of inconsistencies across the league around with what penalties are given to which situation. And for this one in particular, there's a scaling model. I haven't seen a scaling model go up and down throughout my time in the AFL. So, I mean, we can take a look at it. We can take a look at some of the inconsistencies I think that the AFL have had throughout this season, and the list is long, Tommy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So these are missteps to a variety of degrees. Some are significant, some not so. But if you just look through them all, it's really been a rotten year for the AFL in many respects. And I understand that no one supports the AFL. It's easy to criticise the league. It's been very easy to criticise Laura Kane in the past, sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly. But ultimately, Hurdy, the buck stops with the CEO and the commission. And there's just too many own goals here. Like, I think the Isaac Rankine situation was actually a layup. A 5-week sanction, you make the call, you do it. Noah Bolter was a layup. You give him a heavy penalty so it doesn't doesn't go against what Richmond are offering or what the police are doing. And yet again, they continue to have these missteps. And I think Andrew Dillon, who's an excellent person and well-liked and well-regarded across the league, needs to be stronger in his leadership.
One of the things the AFL used to be great at was when they made decisions, they managed those decisions and put the message out to the media and managed the brand of the AFL so well that anything that was a misstep wasn't seen as a misstep. I think the brand management and then those missteps have been slipped through. So brand management hasn't been done as well as it was in the past under other administrations.
Well, you need to plan for this all at the start of the year. It's risk mitigation, it's scenario planning, plan for all these. So when they come out, instead of it leaking through the media and it festering for a week, what can happen is on Monday, you just roll it out and go, yep, we all agreed to this before the season started. Bang, there's a penalty. We all move on because as this week rolled on, there was so much noise around it, understandably too. It just built into it's such a big thing, and I thought it was damaging for the AFL, the Adelaide Footy Club, and Isaac in particular.
I do sense a definite. Amongst the players of the Adelaide Crows, they'll be disappointed with the way it was handled.
Well, and I suppose all you do is take ownership and deal with it now. And I think the main thing is when Isaac returns, he gets in front of everyone, he owns it. But then from there, I'd love to see him integrate back into the footy club, train with some guys like Harry Schoenberg, Luke Pedlar, make these guys
Is it a distraction
better.
in finals, though, potentially leading up to a prelim or a semi-final if you lose?
I would make him a part of it all, even if they win and he's not going to play in the grand final. Make him a part of it, make your teammates better and make him feel a part of it as well.
Might be distraction for the first training session, but after that...
It doesn't sound like they're keen on a framework, though, does it? I mean, the AFLPA has been pushing for that, for these type of misconduct issues over the last couple of years, and it doesn't seem like, judging by Andrew Dillon's response last week, that that's on the radar at all.
But how much easier would it be if there was a framework?
There'd still be variance, though, wouldn't there, in every scenario?
There's a lot of frameworks in the AFL coming up, Rory.
But as we know, the MRO, there's a framework, but it can also be toggled depending on the punishment.
Why in this situation is there a sliding model? We've seen it go up win weeks and now just come down.
I think everyone would think that model, the way they put on an extra week for an extra player, that probably has been misguided.
It's rules on the run, and that's always going to get you in trouble at the end of the day. Carlton and their exit interviews, they're underway. Big news out of Icon Park. Don't go anywhere. Footy Classified has you covered. Stay with us tonight. Welcome back to Footy Classified. So much trade news starting to emanate around the AFL. Let's start with Carlton, where news today that Jack Silvagni will exercise his options as a free agent and depart the club. Cal, what can you tell us?
Well, he hasn't named a club yet, and he has a couple at least chasing him. Now, the Western Bulldogs have a 4-year offer on the table for him. He's met with them, done a medical. Also, Collingwood has done the same and has the same offer on the table for him. Of course, Carlton had a 4-year offer for him as well. So it's not as if he's been without options, but I think the Bulldogs are well in this race. At first, it felt like Collingwood was well ahead. The Bulldogs have made up some ground, and there's a good fit for him there. So he has a big decision to make. You'd expect that to come over the next week.
Financially, what's the difference between Carlton and what the other clubs
Not
are
significant.
Okay.
Not overly
So this is about wanting another opportunity, wanting to do something different.
I think it's a bit of a fresh start to it all.
Yep.
And also, where's Carlton at on the ladder? You know, there's a couple of teams that could spike.
Just one club I want to put on the agenda as well with Jack Silvagni is St Kilda. So it's one of those stories that's been circling for a while, Cal. Yeah, absolutely. St Kilda.
They've just opened up the books, haven't they?
Yeah, it's less firm than what Collingwood or the Western Bulldogs are, but I just can't discount them. That's the point. Everyone I ask, they don't say no, they're out of it. In fact, I think St Kilda is just waiting in the background. I know that Jack Silvagni has a very good relationship with Ross Lyon, privately, away from football. Clearly, his dad is a list manager there as well. I agree with you, Cal. I think the Western Bulldogs and Collingwood are very much ahead, but I'm just not quite ready to draw a line through St Kilda.
Saints are already looking at Leclerc, of course, from the Giants in that regard, and we spoke about Liam Ryan as well, who we expect to go there. More
trade news in a while on the other clubs, but the biggest trade story of the year, potentially, Cal, could be Charlie Curnow, despite what he said now, not once, but twice publicly. What can you tell us tonight about the future of Carlton's spearhead?
Well, Charlie is still keen to pursue a move if the green light is there from Carlton. And we know his long-term contract, but if Carlton give it the green light to look at it and Sydney come to the table with some options, then I think there's going to be some further discussions to this. Now, at this point, there hasn't been that yet from Sydney to say this is what we'll offer, this is who is up for grabs. But for me, Charlie Curnow is definitely looking at different options.
So he's knocked it on the head twice, and I imagine he's just maybe publicly, he's slightly disgruntled. Like, senior players are allowed to be disgruntled. They're allowed to give feedback to the coaching administration if things are going wrong. That's their role. It's not just him giving feedback.
But I think it's about the environment in Melbourne, isn't it? It feels like it's not necessarily about Carlton, it's the environment in Melbourne, the pressure. I mean, playing for Carlton and performing subpar in a subpar team, I don't think it'd be a lot of fun with the supporter base they've got and how they really drill into each player. But if he's going to leave Melbourne and talk about Sydney, and talk about Gold Coast, neither of those clubs really have what Carlton want.
Well, I believe there'd be 4 untouchables at Sydney. Let's have a look at them because they're obvious. Isaac Heaney, Errol Goulden, Nick Blakey and Chad Warner. Those are the 4 guys that just aren't going to be in the conversation. And if they are, then I don't think Sydney will be part of the Charlie Curnow chase, if that's what Carlton is going to demand. But then after that, you look at the next tier. It's the James Rowbottom types, the Tom Papleys, Logan McDonald. They also have pick 9, of course, that'll be part of discussions. Is that going to be enough for a player who does want to look at his options?
Michael Voss could not let Charlie Curnow go for one of those names you've just said.
It's the age-old question. If a player isn't that keen to be there, how well can he perform next year?
I think he can turn a player around. I really do think. I mean, unless he's like absolutely walks out and says, I'm definitely not playing, but it doesn't sound like that's
he's not going to do that.
No, he's said, I'd rather go somewhere else from an environment point of view, but that point of view for me is the players you're talking about there. If I was the coach, there's no way you'd let a player like that go for the quality of player you're talking about.
What happens if Sydney had like a trade-out option, like you see in like the NBL across in the USA, Tommy? Would you be up for something like that? Where Sydney just go to a player, they go to Hurdy or they go to James Rowbottom or Chad Warner and go, or Errol Goulden, sorry mate, pack your bags, you're going to Melbourne, we're getting Charlie Curnow in.
So trade without consent?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't exist in the AFL, but if Sydney
Can you see it ever existing?
No, I can't, not with the AFL Players Association, the way it is. And I've got mixed views on it depending on what players earn and how vast Australia is compared to America, because
it's pretty vast.
They make more money in the US.
Sure, I'm joking.
Understand that. Yeah. The other thing with Charlie Curnow, Cal, there'll be plenty of people sitting at home just wondering how can he knock it on the head twice publicly? And we are saying the opposite. And I completely agree with you that if it was entirely up to him, he would move clubs at the end of the year. It's not. How does that work behind the scenes? What are the machinations? How do the player managers get involved to get this deal done?
Well, this is why you have managers, isn't it? And to work out what the market's saying. And if it is getting to a point where it progresses, then you take some steps. I don't think this is going to be the case where, like we've seen players this week already say, I want to go here, I want to go there. I don't think it's going to be a case of I want to get traded, now work out the rest. It's the way you have to work backwards in some ways, get the result, and then when it gets a little bit closer,
and the player has to say, I want to stay, if he's in a slight bit of stay. Because if he says, I want to go definitely, and comes back, particularly a club like Carlton, they tear you apart.
You revealed this story a month ago. Do you think he stays, if you had to call it right now?
I still think he stays. Yes, I do. But it doesn't mean that he's not looking and thinking, what else is out there?
That's right, yeah.
And that is, I think, quite normal for players in Charlie Curnow's position. And I understand why he's saying what he's saying publicly, but it doesn't mean it's being reflected behind the scenes. Before we move into the Dogs, just more news out of Carlton. Aaron Hamill has departed the club. You reported today that Tom Lonergan is going elsewhere as well, Cal?
Yeah, he's going to be leaving Carlton, where he's a development coach, and joining the Cats as a recruiter. They like their old premiership teammates there. Obviously, Andrew Mackey, James Kelly, a few there.
And Aaron Greaves as well as the assistant coach. So already big moves in the footy department, of course, in addition to Brad Lloyd. The Western Bulldogs, Hurdy, they're a club that we spoke about on Footy Furnace on Sunday night that has hugely underperformed this year. It looks like they'll miss finals, and none of us can quite work out why. Can you help us out?
Yeah, like I think to us it's obvious why. I mean, it's the ability for teams to score quickly against them. Their midfield is fantastic when it's attacks, when it gets its hand on the ball, but sides are able to cut through them and get the ball out the front of stoppage. Have a look at the stoppage here. We just have a look here at how the Bulldogs get out. So Sam Davidson just trades in, just collapses in, and then you watch Hayden Young come out through the middle of the ground. We're going to look at this from a couple of angles. This happened too often on Sunday night against Freo, and why Freo able to score really, really quickly. Just pause here. See that space there? Most teams would have a defensive winger covering that space and not enabling Hayden Young to come out. The Bulldogs decided they want all their numbers in and around the contest, which leaves that sort of alleyway out through the back. And here again, we'll pause this. Look at all the Bulldogs players have collapsed in on the contest, all in too close, and on the outside, Fremantle have got out. That, to me, Rory, talks about a team that really wants to hunt the ball. They're good when they get the ball, but when they miss the ball, it is too easy to go the other way, and that's why they're able to get scored against. The best teams with those good midfields can really put a score on against them. The
best teams will just challenge their tackling and their defensive pressure, and that's what teams will expose. They want to run out, they want to carry, they want to break the tackles. But the other part, and it's a really easy fix, and I'm going to give you an example of the best team doing it, but is the Doggies' defensive structure. Have a look at this forward 50 stoppage, and we're going to see the numbers that are inside this stoppage. You've got every single midfielder from the Dogs inside this stoppage. If we pause here, there is 10 players ahead of the ruckman. okay? 10 players, that only means 8 that are behind. And when Freo win this ball, and like many teams do, they can come out unpressured and come out like this, and the ball will transition down to the other. And now the best and most organised defensive team in the comp is Collingwood. That's Pendles at the bottom of the screen there. They've got 4 players ahead of the ruckman. So watch this ball. As this plays out, they're very well set up in case, one, they can score from it because they've opened up some space from the stoppage. But if they lose the ball, look whose hands it end up in. It's Pendles. He's set up perfectly, and Schultz was there as well.
So is that coaching?
And so what we're saying is that they're too attacking. We think they're midfield. They're just too attacking. And I think it is part coaching, it's part players. But if you continue to attack like that, you are going to get scored against. And I think it's a bit of balance for Luke Beveridge. He spoke about more pressure around the contest, his press conference after the game. And I think you'll see next year more balance around the stoppages and around the contest so that they actually, when they lose the ball, can't get their hands on it. It doesn't rip down the other end for goal.
We're asking for a 2-goal change, really, aren't we? It's not much. It's 2 goals difference between some of those close games that are a win or a loss. The other team that need to fix up a couple of areas is the Gold Coast Suns, Hurdy.
Yes.
Because when they're at their best, they're unbelievable. But when they get exposed through that midfield, they find it pretty tough.
Yeah, let's have a look at some stats when they lose. And when they lose, their pressure goes off. Tackle differential comes down to 15th. Contested possession differential 12th. Ground ball get differential 16th. Loose ball 17th. Defensive 50 to forward 50 transition 18th. And goals per inside 50 is 17th. What that says to me, if they don't get the contest right, Rory, then they're in trouble. The only way the Bombers can beat them on the weekend is to beat them around the contest and then own the ball and keep it off them. Because if that doesn't happen, we're going to see a Gold Coast win and they'll get to the finals for the first time ever in the history of their club.
It'd be great to see. No, they can't.
I don't think they can either, but the only way they can is if they beat them around the contest and then keep the ball off them. Because I think the Gold Coast Suns want to have the ball in their hands. They're a forward rush team. They force the ball forward. So if you can win it, keep it off them, maybe there's a chance. But I really think it's not a chance.
Come on, Hurdy.
Well, tell me there's a chance.
Well, there's some Essendon supporters out there. I'm trying to... Doggy supporters. Yes. Sorry, it won't happen.
Did the moment get to them last week, do you feel? They were on the cusp of locking in their first final series.
No, I think it was more about Port.
Yeah.
I think Port... I mean, the Gold Coast Suns are a very good football team when the game goes their way. I don't mean they're downhill skiers, but when they get the contest right and they get the ball going forward of sort of halfway across the contest, they're a good team. But if it goes back the other way, they do struggle.
It would be a couple of opportunities to take on Port and shut down a few of their keys. Sorry, Tom.
It's OK. It would be a monumental choke if the Gold Coast Suns lost tomorrow night to your Essendon Football Club. And you'd be eating your words as well, Hurdy.
Exactly.
Eddie Maguire goes away for a week and we chuck away Coach's Corner.
Hang on.
And we bring in Trade Corner.
Hang
on.
on.
We've got the best in the business to do it. Cal Twomey is up next with Trade Corner. Don't go anywhere. I got a call last night from James Hird. He said it's not Coach's Corner this week, it's Trade Corner. And Cal Twomey, the best in the business, has stepped up to the plate and is ready to go. Cal, let's start with the big news today regarding Harley Reid. So he's off the table, which means the Hawks have to look elsewhere. What sort of players are they after?
Well, it's midfielders, isn't it? Clearly they have a need for midfielders. This is the dream, isn't it? Zach Butters, of course, is a pre-agent out of contract next year, as is Sam Walsh. Those guys are going to be massive targets for them next year. I absolutely think that midfield quality is what they need. They've already been in the market for Zach Butters. He's going to stay. There's no way that Port Adelaide is letting him go. I think Sam Walsh will take time to make his free agency call as well. Zach Merritt, for me, is going to be staying at the Bombers. I just don't think that's going to push anywhere, regardless of inquiries. Christian Petracca, though, it's a little bit up in the air for me. What about you?
So Christian Petracca had his exit meeting yesterday. Trades weren't mentioned. I think this is the sort of thing that will play out as their coaching process plays out over the next 4 to 6 weeks. What would you do if you were Melbourne or Christian Petracca?
I think it's time. I think that it's time to make a move. I think the marriage can be ready for a split now. It's been a great marriage, a successful one. I think that at this point, if the player's career and the club as well where it's at, I think it's a perfect time to move.
So what's he worth then? I mean, if he says, I want to play at Hawthorn, and he's probably not going to put his head above water for obvious reasons. We saw what happened 12 months ago. So the Hawks need to make the move. What's he worth in a trade?
I still think in this year's draft he's a top 10 to 15 pick, and it's about money off the books as well, isn't it? Which is a significant one.
Speaking of Hawthorn midfielders, James Worpel's had a deal on the table for quite some time now. He hasn't signed and he's got interest elsewhere. Yeah,
and we think the Cats are absolutely up to their neck in this one. 4-year offer from the Cats as well as the Hawks. You're a free agent, restricted free agent. You don't make a decision by the finals time. I think that's one way to being out of the door. And whether the Hawks really are that desperate to keep him on that 4-year deal is another one. Now, midfielders are absolutely absolutely in the market. One of those is Marcus Windhager. What can you tell us?
So Marcus Windhager, if he had a 4-year deal in front of him right now, he would sign. He wants to stay at St Kilda, but these clubs are interim, Cal, and it doesn't mean he's not going to go there either because he's highly regarded around the AFL. He can play a variety of different roles. I'm sure the Saints would like to keep him. It's just on what terms?
Yeah, at the moment, 2 years, as we speak about. But if it got to a 3 or 4 year deal, he probably stays. North Melbourne's offer is big. 5 years.
Wow.
He's going to have to be paid more than $700,000 to be in that. So it's $3.5 million plus to be there. Of course, the Giants, he has the link. Essendon and Melbourne, obviously, in there. 4 years plus on the table from the suitors.
Just before we move on, I think if St Kilda said to you, here's 4 by $600,000, he signs. But they haven't done that yet, which is why it's an open discussion.
What about his teammate, Rowan Marshall?
So Rowan Marshall has purposely avoided the discussion around his future for quite some time now. He's waited till the Tom De Koning news dropped, and now it has. We know that Tom De Koning, via Sam McClure last night, is going to be joining the St Kilda Football Club at the end of the year as a free agent. So this will pick up steam now. The question won't be whether Rowan Marshall wants to be there or not. I think Rowan Marshall will probably decide that opportunities elsewhere make best sense for him. The question will be whether Geelong is willing to give up what St Kilda want via a trade. And I think there's every chance St Kilda just say, no, Rowan Marshall's not for trade this year.
Or at least see it out for a year.
Yeah.
See how it goes as a partnership. Who knows, it could work okay.
Speaking of ruckman, Sam Draper, you've been all over this story. Has he made his mind up yet?
Well, Essendon offered 4 years, then 4 years and a trigger for a fifth, and now recently, over the past week, have upped that offer to 5 years flat. That's in line with the offers from Adelaide and also Brisbane, who are chasing him. Adelaide's been in this chase for 18 months. Brisbane, the best part of a year. Both significant offers, leaning towards going at this point, but he's been absolutely torn by this throughout the year. His exit meeting will be coming in coming days. A decision for him over the next week.
So what's he weighing up?
Well, the go-home factor to South Australia, where he's got family. I think the idea of playing for Brisbane, where he's the lone ruckman, he doesn't have to share it with Riley O'Brien, would be part of it. And also the loyalty to Western, where he's obviously pretty tight with a lot of the players there. But I think that's the least likely now with that 5-year offer there, despite that. The question will be where the compensation pick ends up and whether that's enough to trigger a band 1 compensation pick.
Yeah, that's a big call for Essendon and also Sam Draper coming up. Just before we move on, Essendon have some big calls as well over some other contracted players. Give us some names that could be part of the conversation across the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, Tsatas has been talked about ad nauseum throughout this season, been in and out of that midfield mix. He's contracted for next year, a pick 5 from a couple of years ago. I think he stays at the Bombers. That's the read I'm getting on that situation. Ben Hobbs is a first-round pick the year before that. I think that position is pretty dicey at the moment. He doesn't have a contract offer for next year. Will Setterfield, another first-round pick from many years ago, doesn't have a contract offer for next year. A long-term injury as well. So some decisions are coming. There's going to be a pretty significant list, Cull, at the Bombers at the end of this season.
And they do have a good draft hand at the moment as well, but big list turnover, as you said, as they rebuild. Liam Ryan, some news over in the West tonight, Cal?
Yeah, he's confirmed that he wants out. He has a year to go on his contract. Hasn't named his club of choice, but had his exit meeting with Andrew McQualter and the Eagles this afternoon in the West. Has told the club that he's going to be exploring his trade options. St Kilda is where we believe that's most likely to be. 3 years plus a trigger for a 4th on the table. Some other clubs have shown interest at different points, but I think St Kilda is where he will land.
And West Coast said tonight he's a required player, as they always do in this situation, but he won't beat the Eagles.
Get ready for your trade code.
Yeah, required player. It's the most obvious phrase in the world. Hey, Hurdy and Sloane, not sure if we're invited back next week, but I appreciate you giving us the time.
It's very good. Just want to know, out of Worpel, Windhager, Marshall, Draper and Liam Ryan, who's the most likely to leave?
Liam Ryan.
Liam Ryan.
Liam Ryan, second.
Worpel, I think.
Yep.
Followed by?
Draper.
Draper. Those 3 almost certainties?
Draper's not almost certain, but the other 2, I'd say.
How can Brisbane afford both Oscar Allen and Draper with the list they've got? That seems a stretch to me. I'll just push it into the future.
Well, they've got a premiership star, a premiership hero in Cal Archie, who's most likely now looking at an option at Adelaide. So they have a longer-term option there, a contract on the table for him. So that'll free up some money. You have to be creative.
Starcevic too.
Starcevic is another one, of course, who has that decision to make too. So if you account for 1 out of Starcevic, probably pays for what they would have offered Draper. And then maybe a little bit of accounting to do in between there, but it's a balance.
Can TDK and Marshall play together?
Look, I think they can if you go to 5 on the interchange bench. I think they can. Yeah, I think that 5 on the interchange bench with no sub actually helps that decision by St Kilda. And
they've got to find money for Levi Ashcroft as well, the Brisbane Lions. So Dom Ambrosio has a difficult job there, fitting all these stars together. Okay, it's time for the Lexus of Blackburn Performance of the Year. And geez, there's been some performances in recent weeks. And what about this car? The Lexus LBX 2-wheel drive worth over, get this, Hurdy, $55,000 with all on roads and 12 months of Vic Reggio. G'day to Maury and everyone at the team of Lexus of Blackburn. That is a beautiful car.
Is that what you're driving? That car?
I'm not driving. I'm driving a white one, but it is a delicious car.
Okay.
So don't worry to use my Bruce McAvaney impersonation, which is terrible, by the way. Cal, take it away.
Well, if there's one player I'd want playing for my life, it had to be Zach Butters. What a performance from him on Friday night. 35 disposals, 5 clearances, 8 marks. Did it for Kenny. Was the most obvious 3-vote game you'll ever see in your life. You could have banked on this one beforehand. He was always going to be best on ground. And if he's not an All-Australian, then I'm not watching the same game of footy across this year. It has to be an All-Australian. It has to be the Lexus winner this week.
Single-handedly got him across the line in a huge game, massive
Always
upset.
does.
Yeah, and like you spoke about him as a trade target before, but would be a massive loss for Port because
he's
he
heart and
is the
soul,
heartbeat of that competition.
Any chance of him signing a longer term?
Well, he's been offered a deal, if we can just hold this for a second, a deal for 2 years to get him through for an extra couple of years and another 6 years on top of that. Let's roll.
Wow. Tom Papley was also outstanding. He's one of my favourite small forwards in the competition. 27, 13 score involvements, 3 goals. Mind you, Hurdy, he's an unbelievable small forward. Best small forward this week by far, and will probably win the Lexus award for this week, wouldn't he?
Depends what you define. Depends what you define as a small forward. Best small forward maybe, but Tom, Cal and Rory, this man, Toby Green, played the best 40 minutes of football I've seen so far this year, and potentially
game goes for 100.
I know, but he kicked goals early, but that 40 minutes won them the game, got them through to the finals. 17 possessions, 5 marks, 11 score involvements, and 4 goals. And this mark here, which he sort of mucked up the shot. But what about this one? This one here.
That's unbelievable.
It's yeah, what a mark it was. And Toby Green, my favourite player in the AFL, and he is the Lexus Player of the Week without even looking at this one.
I hear you, Butters. I hear you, Papley. I hear you, Green. I raise you, Hugh McCluggage. 32 disposals against the Hawks at the Gabba and 2 goals. He's smooth moving. He's tough. He's skillful. I love his vision. I love his balance. I love his leadership. I love the way he plays. And he is surely the Lexus of Blackburn Player of the Week this week. So we're just getting word through. Oh, my God. It's Toby Green. You might have heard him. Well done.
Well, who else could it be? I mean, really. I mean, Toby Green basically single-handedly got him across the line. Not single-handedly, had some help from his teammates, but he is in rare form coming into the finals, and I can't wait to see him take on, well, it's either going to be Gold Coast or the Hawks, isn't it?
Yeah. Well done, Hurdy. You haven't had a win for a while, so we just gave you a bit of charity today.
Well done to Toby Green.
No, he deserved that.